Who are the Steelers' free agents? We all know the Steelers are meeting this week for a few days to talk about the free agent class. And the list is quite long, of course. You got Hayden, Juju, Ebron, Killo, Trey Turner, Terrell Edmonds, and a few more. We're going to talk about each one of those today on the Steel Studio podcast. First up, Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden was a great Steeler. Joe Hayden we got from the Browns. And Joe's played well for us. Joe's a great locker room guy. And, I thought Joe would be gone. And he still might be gone. But I think with the addition of the new coach from the Brian Flores, Joe was the first one to talk about how excited he was for that. And I think that's good news. One thing about Joe, though, I don't know how healthy Joe is, and he's a full-time starter. When he plays, he's quality, and when he doesn't, we're paying him. We paid him a lot last year. As you can see, he's 33 years old. He has 12 seasons. He's got to be in there in the end, man. He had $11 million guaranteed last year, and that's a little bit too high for him. And as you can see, he only played 54% of snaps last year. And I think it will just depend on him. If he wants to come back on a one-year deal or maybe a 2-year deal of $4 million or something, I'd be up for that. Here's what his spot track values him at $7.5 million with his injury status. But he may get more with another vet team that is like a contender, considered a contender. But just want to sign somebody, a veteran. But if not, if we get him for $3-4 million for 1 year, I'd do that. And then maybe we draft a guy or we sign one of these other people we're talking about and let him compete for a starting job. That's my take on Joe Hayden. Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju's been a great Steeler as well, on and off the field. I know he has theatrics on TikTok and stuff like that, but Juju is a Steeler, man. And he did work his way back. And I would love to have Juju back. He was a big Ben fan. He came back when Ben came back, and he worked his way back from the injury and made the playoffs, played in the playoff game. He did cost us about $8 million last year for 1 year. I personally don't think he's worth that much with the injury. I mean, it's part of it. And he only had like 15 catches during the regular season last year, as you can see. But he did have 97 in 2020. He had 42. He struggled in 90 when Mason was there and Ben wasn't there. 2018 was his biggest year. He did have 9 touchdowns in 2020, though. If we could get him back, I would take him back. But I wouldn't overpay him too much. Hopefully Juju will be back, but not at $8 million. Maybe a 1-year deal for $5 million. We got the cap room. When it's all said and done, we could have $50 million in cap room if we save Ben until the end of June 1st when he officially retires on the books. That would help us save another $7 million. Another guy that's a free agent is Eric Ebron. I don't see him coming back, man. Eric Ebron was a good guy, good player. He'll get a job somewhere. He will. I just don't think it's with us. He played well, but he wasn't that great for us. He cost us $5 million against the cap. It wasn't that bad, but with Freiermuth and Gentry coming on at the end of the year, I don't even see a need to keep him. He wanted to come back on a 1-year deal for the minimum, with some incentives maybe, but I just don't see it. I think Eric Ebron is gone. Killo Witherspoon. This kid played well at the end of the year. Well enough to get a starting pay job, though? I don't know about that. But he did play well. He made plays. He had 3 or 4 interceptions, and he was the only corner that played well at the end of the year there and made a difference for us. He's great against the pass and coverage. I don't know how good he is against the run. He struggles a little bit, but he can bulk up a little bit and really be a factor against the run. I think he's a keeper. I think we should try and keep him, though. You see, he only had 15 tackles last year, but he had 3 interceptions. Spot Track, they've estimated him at $4 million for a year. I would throw that at him. I would throw $4 million at him for a year. But he had a really good rate against passer rating, teams passing on him. One of the best in the league, as a matter of fact. But he didn't play a whole season. But I would love to have him back. That's what I expect us to sign, or at least try to. If he gets overpaid somewhere, like 6, 7, 8 million, we won't. Otherwise, I would try. Of course, that may determine if Hayden comes back or not, if we can't get a Killo back. Trey Turner. Trey Turner stepped up, showed up when DeCastro went down. I like Trey. He's a good guy, but he's also 29 years old, and he was part of the problem on this line. He didn't cost us that much, $4 million guaranteed, but I just don't think Trey Turner is a starting guard on our team. Maybe with a veteran team of linemen, he could be. But Spot Track says his value is about $8 million a year. I can't pay him that. And, you know, when you look at his stats, he had 1,000 snaps played. He had 7 sacks allowed. That's a lot. That's a lot of sacks. Third most in the league, as a matter of fact. We need a stud guard. I think, thank you, Trey, but good riddance, buddy. Terrell Edmonds. This is one that's very debatable. The guy has played well for us, but he just doesn't ever get turnovers. But he has gotten better every year. We did not pick up his 5th-year option. But I think that's a guy that we could probably try and re-sign because I think Minka likes him. And with the new defensive coaching additions, maybe they can help him get better with the turnover department. He's only 25 years old. He's young. And I think he could get better. Believe me, I think we should still draft a safety that can, and if he beats him out eventually, that would be fine too. But the guy's healthy. The guy plays a lot. He plays every game, as you can see. He had 2 interceptions. That's the most he had the last 2 years. He had chances for more, and he dropped them. He just needs to work on that. He's so fast. And he's a stealer. He's another guy that we picked up, drafted in the 1st round. And I think we're going to try and re-sign him, man. Spot Track has his value at $7.5 million. I would do an $8 million 2 or 3 year deal and $8 million a year average or 7.5 average. I don't know. We'll see. You guys comment and tell me what you think about him. That's a big one. Miles Killebrew. I definitely want this guy back. I think we can get him back at a decent price. He's a great special teamer. He's not a safety. He could fill in a pinch, but he's not. You don't want him playing safety full time. But he is a good player, and I like Miles. And he had 2 blocked punts. I mean, that's unheard of. And he's a special teams demon. And look, he played 73% of the special teams snaps for us. That's a guy I definitely want back. Miles Killebrew. His value is $1.1 million. We should be able to do that no problem. Although we could draft someone and throw them in, but I think Miles could be a good player. James Washington. James Washington, he really hasn't had done what I thought he would be. I thought he'd be more of a deep threat. He's got great hands, big hands, makes contested catches. But I think he thinks he's more than he is, and he's going to be a 3rd or 4th receiver on any team he's on. I think we need to go after somebody faster. But if he wants to come back, at a decent price, that would be great. He had 24 catches. 2019 was his best year because he was with Mason. Mason could potentially be our starter. I hope not, but he could potentially be our starter, and those two have a rapport. That's one way I see his path back to the Steelers. But if the rumors are true about him wanting to be traded, he'll be gone. He's young. He only had, and he was cheap. But I don't I don't see James being on this team. Good luck, James. Another guy, Josh Dobbs. Josh has been a great mentor, great player for us, not on the field, more in a coaching scheme. I love him as a coach. Such a good guy, but I don't think he's an NFL quality quarterback. He's what he was, a number 3. And I don't think anybody else is going to really want the guy. But he's a good kid. And if we get him at the minimum, he wants to come back in and compete again, I would do that. Otherwise, come back as a coach, Josh. That's what you're best at. Another guy that Ben loved and was there with Ben. I'm not sure he'll be back. Ray Mcleod. A lot of controversy about Ray, but I think Ray really came on at the end of the year, and he's a great returner. He led the league. I think we want Ray back. He had 40 receptions, 39 receptions. He was a short receiver that Ben went to a lot, dropped down a lot. Maybe with a different quarterback, he could be better. I don't think he's a starting receiver. I don't think he's a top 3 receiver on his team. He's a situational receiver, but he's a great returner. I don't think he's worth gonna make that much. I would bring him back on a 1-year deal. For maybe, I don't know, $1 million, maybe $2 million. That's about it. I wouldn't do more than that. Maybe a 2-year deal, but he's not a top 3 receiver on this team. BJ Finney. This is when BJ Finney got drafted by the Steelers, or actually signed by the Steelers after the draft. He was a lifelong Steeler fan. I feel bad for Finney that he didn't turn out like we thought he would. BJ is a good player, though. Good backup, depth. And I thought he played okay when he played. He had some injuries to deal with. He needs to be pushed by a better offensive line coach. And I think he could still be a starter in this league. He had 87 snaps, no sacks, no penalties. That's not bad. I like to see more of him, and I think we'll get him back on a cheap deal. BJ Finney, I think he's good depth, and we need him. And I still would like to sign a stud guard in free agency or the draft, and we'll see what happens. But I'd give BJ a minimum $1 million, or bring him back like that. Arthur Milage didn't play too bad. He was a Jet originally we got last year in free agency. I like Milage. I don't know that he's the answer starter, as a nickel, but he's a good spot fill-in, good depth. He played pretty well when he played. He's physical. He made tackles. He had 38 tackles. His numbers weren't very good as far as targets, and but he tried to fill the Hilton role, and he wasn't that great at it. But I would throw 1 or 2 year deal at him, $1 million. I wouldn't give him much more than that. Another guy that underachieved, in my opinion, is Milage. I thought Milage was going to be a better backup running back, but he wasn't. Maybe it was a system, maybe it was a line. Maybe they'll give him another chance, let him come to camp and compete. But I didn't think Milage was at all what I thought. Like 12 carries for 36 yards. That's nothing. 2 receptions. His best year was in 2020, looks like. He did average 3 yards a carry, but I think we turn the page on Milage. We can find guys like him all day long out there. This guy's interesting. Chooks, a core 4. I thought Chooks had a really good year, basically. I mean, he's a little above average right tackle. And I think we need to re-sign Chooks. Look, he only allowed 2 sacks. He did have 11 penalties, and he needs to work on that. Second in the league in penalties, but that'll keep his price down a little bit. But Chooks had 1,078 snaps and only 2 sacks allowed. This team didn't give out as many sacks as some other teams, like the Browns, man. I think Chooks could be a good right tackle for us for the next 5 years. We could draft somebody, let him compete. And look, he's very durable. He played 92% of the snaps on offense. That's hard to find. He will get a deal somewhere if we don't pay him. Spot Track values him at $13.7 million. That's a little high, I think, but he could get overpaid somewhere else more than that even. And my last guy is my Travius Adams. We signed him on the practice squad, and he came in. I thought he played really well, and I think I hear too it's going to be back. Alualu's going to be back. Imagine those guys with this guy. I want him back. I think we can get him on a 1 or 2 year deal, $1.5 million, $2 million. I think that'd be great. So hopefully we get him back. He's a guy that I want. So that's a list of our unrestricted free agents. Hopefully you guys subscribe, follow, and give me your comments which guys you want back and don't want back. Hey man, we'll see you on our next video. Go Steelers.